Good evening and welcome back to AAA Live, where your academic goals are advanced and achieved. This is Attorney Amian April M. Alcazar, PhD, and tonight we'll have a very special guest for our second launch episode, Dr. Peter John Warner. He's professor at the Tohoku University located in Sendai, Japan. Dr. Warner, maybe you can give some greetings to our stakeholders from the education sectors who make up most of our viewers.
Okay. Like I said, my name is Peter John Warner, and I am a associate professor at Tohoku University. Which question would you like me to address first, please?
Yes. No, first of all, of course, you are in the Department of Intercultural Studies. So maybe you can just give a brief description about your faculty and the department that you belong to.
Sure. Okay. The Department of International Cultural Studies has, we have nine departments, and those are broken down into three different sections. So the one section is our European and Asian section. Second section is, one department is the Asian section. Second one is Africa and America section. And the third area is languages section. And I belong to the languages section. And I'm specifically assigned to the applied linguistics section on how to teach languages. So we also have two English programs inside our department. So our university is involved in a global studies program, which happens throughout all of Japan. It happens at 30 special universities that are selected by the government, and Tohoku University is one of those universities. In that, we have the one program is called our Language Sciences program, and the Language Sciences program is all English, and so it is possible for many students to come here and pursue their studies in English and not in Japanese. In fact, we have one Filipino student actually in our program that's here right now. And we also have the other is environmental studies program, which is in English, available to students also. Yes. So those are the two areas we selected out of the other universities. If you choose another area for the global studies programs, you can select other universities such as Tokyo University or other universities that have other disciplines that they specialize for English programs also.
Well, as you know, I have a very close association with Tohoku University, having finished my master's and doctoral degrees from the Faculty of Economics and Business in Tohoku University. And as of last year, in 2020, Tohoku University was actually ranked #1 in Japan among the global education. So how and when did you actually end up in your field of study, specifically in Tohoku University, and why in particular in Japan?
Okay. I started at Tohoku University. I started actually here almost 20 years ago. I actually started out, I came to Japan in 1988. I had finished my bachelor's degree in the United States, and I was actually an interdisciplinary in three different areas, which was Japanese, political science, and business management. And I worked at the same time while going through college. I was working with Marriott, Marriott Corporation, and I developed I developed a lot of skills with Marriott while I was there. Marriott Hotel is one of the places I worked with a lot. Anyway, through my experience while I was working on getting my degree, I finished up my graduation, and then I decided to come to Japan because after I got married, I came to help take care of my parents-in-law who lived in Japan, and I spent time with my family here. And at that time, when I came to Japan, I was planning on working in the area of business management. However, when I came to Japan during this time of the bubble, there were many jobs available, but it was difficult to get into business management positions, which I thought I specialized in very well. And the only job positions that were available at that time were teaching English as a second language. So I started working at a junior college. And while I was working at a junior college, I became to like teaching English very much. And I decided this is an area I really wanted to pursue and change my field of study. So I started teaching there, and I went and started from there. I went into an international school. At an international school, I took on management positions as a vice principal and also teaching various ages in elementary and high school. But after 2 years, I decided I wanted to pursue further education in college. I wanted to teach in a college. So I decided I would pursue my master's degree. And
what particular field was this in the master's program?
The master's program I chose, I applied at various universities, and I got accepted to Georgetown University and in Washington, D.C. So I went to Washington, D.C., and I took a year and a half off, and I finished my master's degree while I was at Georgetown University. And I returned to Japan again. And then I started working again at university level, and I was teaching undergraduate courses. But I still wanted to teach graduate students. I wanted to be more involved with the research, do more educational things. So I decided while I was working, I would pursue my doctor's degree, and I met a professor at Nagoya University who was very much pursuing the same area of interest as I was in information sciences. And so I went into human informatics, which is the study of languages in sciences. And I got my doctor's degree from Nagoya University. The major of that program was in Japanese. I did have to take the courses in Japanese.
Being a national university.
Yes, but I did write my paper in English, even though I did have to defend it in Japanese. But I did get my doctor's degree from Nagoya University. And with the native skills that I had developed in Japanese and my ability to teach English, from there, I got my job at Tohoku University about 20 years ago. And I've been teaching in the graduate school of international cultural studies for the past 20 years.
Yes. So how and when did you actually decide, even before you came to Japan? Because you mentioned that in the undergraduate program, you actually took Japanese political science and business administration. So maybe you can look back further and really inform our students who are listening to us. How and when did you actually decide, and why did you have this interest in the Japanese language?
Okay. To tell you the truth, when I was in the undergraduate program, in Japan, usually when you choose a program, you select a very specialized field and you move forward to that field, and you can't move out of that field at all. It's impossible to change. But fortunately, at University of Portland, I actually originally was working with music, mathematics, and business management.
Really?
But I didn't do too well in mathematics. Calculus was not my specialty area, and dealing with computers at that time was also difficult for me. And the music I enjoyed, but I just was not at a very highly specialized. I was in the orchestra. I enjoyed music, but I just couldn't write music very well. I was learning how to write music, but I could see that was not my specialization. So it turned out that I did actually meet my wife, my first wife, who I was married to. And when I met her, I got interested in Japanese. And so I chose Japanese as a part of my interdisciplinary, and I enjoyed it. And I also, it gave me a direction to help, knowing that there might be a possibility of going to Japan and taking care of her family. That gave me all the more incentive to study Japanese. And so I worked very hard on my Japanese, and political science I was very interested in also. So those three were a very good fit for me. And I did complete my bachelor's degree and come to Japan as I had planned. But this is not something you plan. It depends on the people you meet and the experiences you have happen. I would have never imagined I would have come to Japan if I never got married to my first wife when I first got married.
So what do you think would be like the skills, competencies, or even experiential learning that students or young people should develop should they wish to pursue your field of study? So whether it's going to be like languages, foreign languages, or even human informatics, for example.
Yes.
What skills do you think will be necessary?
Well, basically, the skill to learn is the thing you really need to learn. And those are basically the way we can improve those ourselves is actually build up learning strategies and finding the strategies that work best for us to learn. Now, for me, an example would be, while I was in an undergraduate school, I had much difficulty doing multiple choice tests and doing checking whether A, B, C, or D, choosing the right answer was a very difficult task for me. I didn't know how to strategically choose the right answer. And so...
But there's a technique.
There is a technique, and you should learn that technique. And that's what's going to help you on the TOEFL test or the whatever test you need to take to get into any graduate school or anything. Even for me, for getting into the graduate school, I had to take those tests and understand how to get the answers. And I still remember in the one chemistry class I had in my undergraduate, I went to the teacher because I took the test, and I hate to say it, but I got a D on the test, okay?
Yes.
But I knew the material. I had studied it. I knew the material. So I went to the teacher and I said, I'm just not good with multiple choice tests. I always tend to choose the wrong answer. Is there any way I can redo the test? And so she said, okay, I'll give you a test, and it'll be an essay test. And I'll ask you the questions and you just write the answers. And we'll see how you do. I took the test over. She made a special test just for me with the same questions, but
in chemistry.
It was a test in chemistry, and I got an A on the test. And so, but I mean, I did learn how to do multiple choice tests eventually. Yes, I did. You have to build those skills up so that you can perfect them. And so you just have to practice the skills in the area. If it's reading skills or comprehension skills, however you can improve those skills. And one of these is through cognitive skills that you can develop through different practice tests. And if you can develop these skills in your undergraduate school or even before then, these skills should be developed while you're actually in elementary school or even junior high school. If
basic education level.
Basic education level. If they're not developed at that time, you will have difficulty when you get into college, like I did. And so I see if I would have learned those skills much earlier, then it would have been much better. But unfortunately, for some reason, I did not actually learn how to use those skills as well as I could.
Earlier on, yeah. So talking about basic education, maybe you can tell us also about your advocacy that you have actually been able to apply in your work in the Philippines through the Balsamo Outreach for Learning and Teaching.
Sure. Okay.
It's a non-governmental organization.
Okay. First of all, Balsamo Outreach for Learning and Teaching was organized and founded by myself 10 years ago. And many people have asked, why did you decide to found an organization where you go abroad to different countries and you try to teach teachers how to teach and use these cognitive skills or strategies, how to actually learn English better? And they ask, why did you create this organization? And basically, the purpose of the organization was created because in many developing countries, such as Cambodia, Vietnam, or other areas, teachers do not have the opportunity to travel abroad and go to seminars on how to learn how to teach English better that are offered in America and many places. But those type of seminars are limited, or were limited more at that time. But anyway, a professor that I had met who asked me to come and help present at another conference that he had overseas, basically asked me, would you come and help out and give your ideas on how to improve teaching and stuff to teach these teachers? Would you volunteer and have your school pay for you to come over and do this? And I said, yeah, I could do that. And I went. And it turned out that he was so inspirational, and I enjoyed teaching those teachers so much that after that I became involved and started doing a couple of those seminars with him. But it turned out that he, after about 2 years, he died. And many of us teachers who were working with him were so inspired that we named the organization after him, because his name was William Balsamo. And so we named the organization as Balsamo Outreach for Learning and Teaching. And so basically, since 10 years ago, we've been actually doing active training sessions or seminars in Vietnam, Philippines, and Cambodia, and also in Indonesia. And basically, through these seminars, we get a lot of positive feedback, and the teachers really enjoy having foreign teachers coming over there and giving their perspectives on how to actually teach English better. And actually, the other second thing about our teachers is that the teachers who go to these seminars have been teaching in Asia for over usually 10 years, most of the teachers. So they know from experience what the problems are in the classroom, and actually teaching English as a foreign language, not as a second language. And so they have a better idea of the difficulties and what type of strategies are best for teaching in large classes in Asia, in Asian classrooms, where if you bring a lot of these special speakers from America or from other places where they're teaching English as a second language in the country which English is actually being spoken in, it's a very different type of learning situation. And so therefore, most of these places have felt that they learned more and were able to apply it more in their classrooms. And therefore, they tend to have supported our organization and continue to use our workshops. However, the past 2 years, since 2019, we have not been able to do these, and hope to return to them as soon as this epidemic thing clears up.
Yes. So what do you think about the education policy that have been adopted insofar as teaching English as either a second language or as a foreign language in these Asian countries? Because the context, as you said, is very different.
Yes. Each country is different. For example, in Vietnam, the education system has been very actually supportive of a lot of new ideas and strategies that have been actually introduced there. And they actually give the teachers more freedom to actually employ them in the classroom. However, they still have the very strict textbooks that are required by the education ministry, similar to Japan, where Japan has special textbooks that are assigned by the education ministry that teachers must use, but they give you the flexibility to supplement those textbooks with other materials, and therefore the teachers are able to be flexible. Other countries we have gone to, such as Myanmar, when I went there first, even though we went there to teach how they could actually use the skills to teach students better, to make them more creative, to make them think more about what they were actually learning, the teacher said, well, we can't do that because our government doesn't allow us to do that at that time. And then they were moving towards, Myanmar moved towards a more democratic government, and then there was this big, strong push, and then a very positive outreach for almost 2 years. But then now Myanmar has moved back down into another sector, and now there's more limitations on actually teaching English as a second language or as a foreign language there. So those would be my some things I could say about teaching in those areas.
Because you also specialize in human informatics, what now is your takeaway insofar as the worldwide phenomena of using the information technology as a mode of delivery for these academic programs, and specifically for teaching of English either as a foreign language or as a second language?
Yes, I believe that using technology and information is more important now than ever before. Especially as we are doing more online courses to teach in the environments in which we are in. However, to use that technology and apply it, you have to have the technology in the government or the sector where you're actually trying to apply it. And if you don't have that technology, that's where you end up with problems, because you can't actually apply it. You can put a lot of technology in schools. You can give them the computers, you can give them all the things, but if the teachers or the students don't know how to use that technology, then it really isn't very applicable. So therefore, right now, with for example, with COVID, many countries are all going to online teaching, and they say, okay, to the schools, let's do online teaching, implement this program. And the teachers don't know how to set up the program. They don't know how to set up the system. They don't have the technical skills. And you have to actually teach these teachers how to do that, or even have an internet capability in the area so that you can actually reach out to all those students. Basically, for example, in Vietnam, back 10 years ago, internet, nobody had computers. Most students in them could not even afford a computer or have one. And so even though you would say, okay, go ahead and go to your computer at home and do it, or go to some store and do your thing, it was very, very difficult. Very, very difficult for any students to do. But now, like in Japan, yes, Japan is very ideal. Everybody has a computer. Every student, every high school student, every junior high school student has access to a computer. So therefore, it's not a problem in a very developed country, but in the developing countries, I think it's more problematic. And for that reason, most of the developing countries are trying to build up their internet capabilities. Yes, and I think, for example, Vietnam is very advanced now. When I went over there for the last 2 years ago, internet speed, and the students all had smartphones, which they didn't have before, and computers were available to most of the families. The economy was improving, so the standard of living was becoming better for most people. So in that case, it was improving. So I think it depends on the country and the implications where you're actually living.
Yeah. So when you were talking about your advocacy for teachers training, and now specifically because of the pressing need to use information technology, would you consider bridging that gap now through the use again of information technology to carry on the advocacy of the Balsam Outreach for Learning and Teaching?
Yes, and we have done that. We have incorporated internet, how to actually use the internet and how to teach courses using the internet.
Yes.
And actually, even with new organizations such as the Computer Assisted Language Learning Association or the International Computer Assisted Language Learning Association, these organizations have become very, very big, very important to actually teaching now, and people have become more familiar. For myself, I never thought of teaching classes online, and I did not want to teach classes online, and
Yeah.
but I was forced to teach classes online with COVID because the university said you have no choice. You're teaching classes online. It takes a lot of extra work for a teacher to create a syllabus and a curriculum for the students online. The teacher has to spend at least 3 times the amount of effort just to create all the materials and set everything up. That being said, once the curriculum and the design are set up, then it becomes much easier in the following years.
Yeah, so you have the instructional design. You start with a curriculum, of course, developed for that particular subject, and then you go into the instructional design. So as you said, once it's already set up, then you just follow through the following years.
Yes, but right now I would say that's the same problem with any country that's trying to incorporate some syllabus or design in. The first 2 to 3 years that you're trying to set that up is very, very difficult, and it's very problematic, and you have many problems arise, and people are going to criticize you and say, well, why in the heck did you try and implement this program and you think it's going to make our education better? But you can say it will make our education better. We will improve. And for example, the Philippines switching from the 10-year system to a 12-year system.
Exactly.
I believe that overall, in the long run, eventually it will be better, but I mean, I believe that right now it's still going through that procedure to try and make it perfected.
The transition period. Okay, so of course, lastly, what can you say about the phenomena that we have been experiencing worldwide insofar as education or learning loss has been concerned with respect to the education of both the school children as well as those in the university level?
Yes. I would say that online learning or learning at home is good, but it basically for if you have highly educated parents at home or people who support the children, it may be actually better for the children while they're at home. But if you are in a situation where the parents are not as highly educated and don't have the same abilities to actually teach in the basic some of the areas, it may cause problems for the children, so that they cannot actually reach the levels that they should if they were actually doing face-to-face classes or actually inside the classroom. So I would hope that we can get back to the face-to-face classes very soon, hopefully for most people, but I don't know when that's going to happen.
Yes. So I think it's been such a wonderful, insightful discussion that we've had, Dr. Peter John Warner. So maybe you can give like some words of advice to our students, our parents, and fellow educators about how we can move forward with dealing with the challenges of the new worldwide educational environment.
Okay. The first thing I would say is that all parents should support children in any way they can to try and pursue their career interests, and try to be aware of the interests and needs of the student if they are actually working with them. One of the problems sometimes is students feel pressured by the parents to perform in one area that they really don't feel comfortable about, and if they're pushed into that direction, it can cause some negative feedback in the future when they actually are forced to go into that job area where they really didn't want to go to in the first place. Maybe they're more interested in another area. And the students should need to be strong enough to tell the parents, this is what I want, okay? Yes. I know this is what you want, but I'm not interested in that area. I'm really interested in this area. Fortunately, my parents let all my family members choose whichever area they were in. But I know many friends who feel a lot of pressure from their parents to pursue one area or another area.
Yes.
And the students should reach out, search and see what is the area of interest you're really interested in, and then pursue that area. And if you're not sure of the area when you enter college right away, then maybe you might start out and work in that area and find out it's not appropriate. Then have the ability or have the courage to change. If it's not the right area for you, have the courage to change. Because if you don't change,
have experiential learning, but you can change all the time.
You can change. You can change. It might delay you 1 to 2 years. It might delay you 1 to 2 years, but if you feel like you must change, this is going to be determine the rest of your life.
Yes.
I mean, and I had to change. I thought I'd be business management. I'm not business management. I'm now teaching in education, and I'm happy. But all of us need to be open to change. Sometimes we have to change. Sometimes we have no choice because of the economy or whatever, things change. We have to be able to change. So be open to change. Be open to change and adjust with those changes, and do whatever you have to actually perform well in the area you want to.
Okay. Thank you so much. So Dr. Peter John Warner, Associate Professor at Tohoku University for the Department of Intercultural Studies. It's been such a pleasure to have you on our program. So again, this is AAA Live, and we'll be right back.
Thank you.